Bungie. So I don't know if y'all saw this, but we're gonna discuss it. Saw this posted. It was 2 days ago now. Introducing Black at Bungie. I saw that, and I saw the screenshot or whatever you want to call it, the graphic for it. I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh shit, man. Here we go. Like, what type of bullshit is this about to be? So let's read through it together, and let's see if we can figure out what this is all about. Black at Bungie, for those that aren't familiar with Bungie, they are responsible for Destiny. So let's see what's up. Introducing Black at Bungie. I'm reading this straight from Bungie.net if you want to go check that out. At Bungie, we want everyone to feel that their identity is welcome. It's one of the core values and manifests in the things we make, in the ways we communicate and interact with our fans, and crucially, in the way we run our studio. It means recognizing and welcoming different points of view and lifting underrepresented voices. This is an ongoing concern that is something that is ever complete, that is not something that is ever complete. Rather, it's an effort that we strive to improve over time and through input from Bungie employees from all over the company. The latest example of this effort is the introduction of Inclusion Club. Oh man. Oh. The latest oh man. Inclusion clubs, that's what they are. Oh, Lord have mercy, Jesus, man. Lord have mercy on my soul. So inclusion clubs, that's part of Bungie's culture. Earlier this year, the first inclusion club, man, it's just whack as. All right, let's continue. Let's read through it. Let's see what they have to offer, because maybe we're just missing something. First inclusion club, Black at Bungie, was formed with the goal of celebrating and uplifting Black employees at the studio. The Black at Bungie Inclusion Club has been on the vanguard of not only setting an example of what inclusion clubs can be for Bungie employees, but also helping to facilitate and navigate vital conversations during a pivotal moment in modern society. Created and powered by Bungie employees, inclusion clubs, ICs, are groups that exist to connect those of similar cultural backgrounds. So what is it, segregation? And those who wish to connect as supportive allies. God damn it, man. I'm telling these SJWs, they're going to run the gaming companies into the fucking ground. It's like that's their goal, bro. This shit sounds terrible. It's got all the SJW rhetoric too, man. Allies and shit. ICs are also a resource within Bungie. They're to provide culturally relevant perspectives, advice, and ideas on everything from organizational culture to the products we create. They are going to run your fucking company into the ground, and you're going to allow them to do it. Because look, none of that shit actually matters. I'm going to be honest with you. None of the shit matters. When it comes to making a good game or making a good product, all that shit doesn't matter unless the product is particularly, or rather specifically, made for that demographic, like in that demographic only, right? As in, like, you have something that Black hair obviously does not, or African hair does not grow like European folks' hair for the most part. So the hair products would be different. That's totally understandable. You'd handle that in your marketing. You'd handle that. And obviously what the product is, what type of people are a part of your company and having input, because that stuff is valuable to that particular demographic. We're talking about a fucking gaming company. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a gaming company. Practice. That's what we're talking about. Nonetheless, they're going to run your company into the ground because none of that shit has anything to do with making a solid game. At all. And if you do, you have no idea what you're doing. Or solid product in general. You see, I've done several videos about how you're not owed any sort of reward points or anything like that simply because you are of a particular race. None of that shit matters. Is it good? Is it digestible? Do people want to consume these products? Yes or no? It's a very simple question. And whether you're white, black, gay, straight, woman, man, none of that matters. Because it's based upon merit. Are you able to produce? When it crosses into this type of shit that they're talking about, we're going to continue reading on. Seriously. You are trying to give people brownie points for simply existing, and this fluff bullshit that has everything else to do with actually making a good product, right? And that's why that stuff starts to leak into the games. And then, you know, guys like myself or everybody else does videos talking about this stupid shit because it has nothing to do with what it is that you're creating. It's brought upon your consumers by way of simply signaling. I don't know if it was some idiot diversity hire that you brought on board or some crackhead HR department that you have that thought that this was a good idea, but it's not, right? Let's continue on though real quick. The concept of inclusion clubs claim from the Bungie Diversity Committee. So yeah, basically what I just said, some sort of the HR diversity hires and all that stuff. They come up with that dumb shit because again, they expect to be awarded, catered to, special privileges, special recognition simply by way of it existing. That shit's for losers, but of course they give in to these types, and it's happening among other companies and other industries as well. But it says, continuing on, which is dedicated to improving upon Bungie's standards for all matters of diversity and inclusion. Those terms are fucking useless when it comes to making valuable, legitimate, good products. Fucking useless. They mean absolutely nothing, right? While the BDC is dedicated to addressing broader issues of diversity, inclusion clubs were created to support the goals of specific underrepresented groups and provide employees with resources and budget that they can use to support the causes that matter to them. This is the more we're reading about this, the worse this shit sounds. Kareem Schumann is a technical dialogue designer working on Destiny 2. He's been involved in a leadership role with Bungie's diversity committee for more than 2 years and is a founding member of the leader of the Black Ad. Of course he is. He says that while the problems of racial injustice, holy shit, y'all have allowed these guys, these advocates of social justice, to take over your companies. Because that's all it sounds like. Hey, I don't know how the pitch was, but I'm pretty sure it's a pitch of bullshit, because the fuck does racial injustice have to do with goddamn Destiny? Nothing. You're brought I thought maybe not, but you brought to the company to make a product, right? Or be part of the general product. And he said a technical dialogue designer. The fuck does that got to do with racial injustice? Sometimes seem insurmountable. It's groups like Black at Bungie that can make a tangible day-to-day impact. Racial injustice is a really big boss to try to fight, Schumann said, when asked about the kinds of conversations that the IC has undertaken in recent months. So let's break it into chunks and look at the things we are good at and affect us on a daily basis here at our work. What can we be doing better at Bungie? What can we be doing for our peers? What can we be doing in our game and content to make the see? That's the complete opposite of what I want, right? I don't give a fuck. And this is, I don't know, Kareem Schumann sounds like he might be a brother. I don't give a fuck about your fight for racial injustice in the game that I'm playing, right? I just don't care. I don't care. And I don't think a lot of consumers give a shit about any of that, to be completely honest. You don't care, right? So your personal social preferences and social activism, they're admitting, and I feel like I'm owed an apology for all of the folks that, and I've talked about this for years in comic books as well as video games, and people act like I'm dramatizing it. Well, they're not doing that. No, these fools, definitely since the George Floyd thing happened, they become way more bold, way more upfront with what their goal is to do. This fucking guy just sat up there and told you that he's talking about racial injustice, and he says, and I quote, what can we be doing in our game? This is centered around this idea of racial injustice in our game and the content that we make and the millions of people play around the world. So he's talking about this racial injustice bullshit. And how do we implement that? And what can they do in their game and the content that they make? I'm owed an apology because you fools, not a lot of y'all guys over at Young Group of 5 now, you understand what it is that we do and what I've been talking about. I'm right on this. Just because you don't like the fact that I'm right, though, the guys that kind of stop by, he's always talking about tokenization, and he's always talking about this, and he's always talking about that. When it comes to SJWs, or rather in game, the actual advocates of social justice, in games, they're not impacting the games. They're not trying to. No, yes, they are, fool. And a blind man should have been able to see that. Those are the things that we have control over. No shit. So, as I've been talking about, this is how and why this bullshit ends up in the video games that you play. This is why it ends up in the comic books that you read, the shows that you watch, because they feel as if it is their responsibilities as creators for a product that, for the most part, has absolutely dick all to do with social justice or racial injustice. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing. But they want that stuff to appear in the form of content for what it is that they are a part of. And that's why it's absolute dog shit for the most part. But that's where we're at. Let's continue on. The launch of Black at Bungie preceded a groundswell and the ongoing discussions around racial equality and justice, both in the United States and elsewhere around the world. Following the tragic deaths of George Floyd, which I just saw, I told y'all this, states have protest demonstrations demanding policy and societal change. Black at Bungie has been an important part of helping to inform the shape the studio's public statements and actions, such as support of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a fucking joke of a movement, by the way. You're generally, much like this, is begging white people to include you in their affairs and represent you and all kinds of dumb shit. Though the club is only a few months old, the group has been busy. They funded a sponsorship of the recent Game Devs of Color Expo, which was held online in September. In addition, the recent edition of the Be Heard and Pin, I'm about to throw up reading this shit, by the way. Be Heard pin and emblem on the Bungie store came as a result of collaboration of the members of the Black at Bungie IC. All profits from the sales of the pin and emblem are benefiting the Equal Justice Initiative, which is committed to ending mass incarceration, excessive judicial punishment in the United States, to challenge racial and economic injustice, no such thing as the latter, and to protect basic human rights for the most vulnerable people in the society. I guess people that aren't what you consider vulnerable. I don't know if they're a part of your club. Maybe not. The club is still building, says Felicia Majors, Bungie's office manager and a member of the Black at Bungie IC. We've been talking a lot about how we can support other groups and show our faces and represent Bungie. I'm very proud to see the Black Lives Matter pen Major said. I've seen it in the game where they put an emblem and thought, wow, they're standing behind what they say. In addition to black developers, the Black at Bungie IC includes allies like, I guess Z Shelley. So these motherfuckers talking about allies, and I'm guessing it's Z Shelley. Guy's a white person, so you can be a person of color and you can be an ally to the person of color. Those kind of the only two spots that you kind of can fit in. This shit is corny as I don't know what, man. I have no role in the day-to-day but the club itself except to observe and provide solicited feedback when requested by my black peers. Holy shit, I can't use that word. He's a fucking loser. So he's there to just sit there and shut the fuck up. Not have any input or anything like that. It's just when they ask him to speak, that's when he speaks. Holy shit, man. Like this is, like this, again, the nutty people are running the nut house, man. They're running, the crazy people have taken over the asylum and they just standing by letting it happen. Look at the future of Black at Bungie plans on furthering its mission to uplift members of the black game development community. Blah, 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 blah. All this is a bunch of fucking bullshit. All right, let's continue on about my personal thoughts. Obviously, it's corny ass shit. But if you're a black developer on a serious note, I understand your desire to want to be part of something. And I understand your desire to want to be, you have a particular skill set that you want people to acknowledge, or rather you want to be creative in that space. I totally get it. But to limit yourself to your race and to feel like you have to be a part of some fucking organization or committee that was specifically designed to uplift you, it perpetuates the same exact idea in which I've stated many times on this channel. And that is that these people feel like as if your world cannot move unless they move it for you. So they have to have these specific designed committees that are designed to lift black voices because you, as a black person, let them tell it. And other black people, unfortunately, hell, a lot, I would argue the black leaders may be at the forefront of a lot of this. Black leaders at the forefront of this idea. Because they feel as if the market was 100% competitive, there was no racial divide or rather racial connotation to you being in that role, right? You being placed in that particular role, then they feel like they would be undermined. Now, never mind, this is quite often is why you get bad products, because a lot of these people are diversity hires and they probably have no business being in the positions that they are in. But on a serious note, you do understand what this is as a creator in that space, right? It's a completely illegitimate. Now, they ain't going to tell you that. And probably your paycheck doesn't identify that as well. But let me be the first to tell you, your fucking position is a illegitimate one as far as I'm concerned. Meaning because you didn't get there by way of merit. You got there by way of someone having to specifically single you out because of your race, because of your, I know that at the bottom of the article, they start talking about the LGBTQ, so your sexuality and stuff, your voices need to be lifted because God forbid you just get out there and compete in a wide open market. No, you can't do that because I guess they undermine your voice. That's bullshit. And it's a lot of y'all folks that want to participate in that bad behavior. But this is why, though I have gotten emails to participate, not a lot, but I've gotten emails to participate, black this, black that. The reason why you don't see me a part of that bullshit, even though I'm darker than all of these motherfuckers, because I don't need that shit to be successful. And I would feel, it's not guilty, that's not the proper term. I will feel like a fucking loser if I had to, okay, I'm black, I just exist, never mind my merit or anything. I'm just a black person that creates whether it be in this case, gaming development. I don't want to be singled out in that way. I would rather just get out there competing. If I'm competing with other black folks, if I'm competing with white folks or whatever, males, females, whatever. Just let the product or whatever it is that I'm creating speak for itself. I don't need this hand-me-down bullshit. But a lot of people feed into this nonsense. Of course, these white folk, white leftists, they foam at the mouth. They love this type of shit because it puts them in this position of like moral power. And they're very egotistical, and they feel like, well, look at me, I'm the champion of the black man. We got this white. They even bragged about the shit in the damn article where they talking about white, some whatever ally. I'm just there to just sit there and listen, and when they ask me, I speak. Like, I'm sure that makes you feel very well, fucking loser. But this is obviously this is going on in virtually every single space. You're seeing this more and more and more and more often in different industries where they adopt this shit where people feel as if they are owed some sort of credit or advancement, and they use terms like underrepresented. There's no such term. Well, there's a term, but it's not a thing, right? What is representation but a meaningless term or slogan that people use to try to position themselves in position of power? Every single individual is an individual, right? And sure, culture is a thing. So there are things that black folks, and definitely in black communities, that do things that maybe the Hispanic folks don't do. Just using that as an example, or Latino community that they don't do, or that may be more unique to that particular community. I'm not one to ignore that and not acknowledge that exists. But that in itself is why I'm saying that representation is a meaningless thing. The reason being is that we're not equal human beings. Therefore, we don't have the same desires. We don't have the same things that we want to actually push for. We don't have the same things that we like, we enjoy, we despise, we participate in. So to sit here and act like there's something called underrepresentation is bogusness. What is that? Is it supposed to be representative of the population? So you need X amount of percentage of white people, X amount of percentage of gay people. And if we did that, in a lot of cases, you'd be overrepresented. But there's no such thing. There's no such thing as that. That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. There is no such thing as under representation, because individuals are just that. So when it comes to gaming development, if you think there's a lack of black developers, is it because, well, a lot of black folks don't consider that as a meaningful, which is okay, career path? Like, that's not anything that they are generally interested in. Not to say that there aren't black people that are, but you got to discuss all of that. And that's just why you get to looking at this and you get to looking at that. And you're like, well, maybe this is not a viable thing. It's just something that SJWs use to try to leverage themselves into gaining power because they don't like the particular makeup of something. One example that I've always used is that I may be as an example, I'm a former track and field athlete. So let's just say that my ambitions were, after all this stuff is said and done, it's content creating, I decided I wanted to make my own like indoor training facility for track and field sprint athletes, right? That may end up with a majority makeup of black people when you consider that we focus on sprinting. So 1 to 400 meters. Let's just say that we focus on that. And we train athletes at this particular facility. My coaches may be exclusively black. The kids that are going there, the people that we're training, whether it be college age individuals that participate and they want to train in the summer, I'm just using this as an example. It may be exclusively black or majority black. There's nothing wrong with that, and generally people wouldn't and they shouldn't consider it under or over representation of some particular demographic when you consider that black people sprint. Hell, it's built into their genetic makeup in a lot of cases when you consider what side of Africa they're this is actual science to this, and of how many fast twitch muscles that they have in their body, which is why you can't teach speed. Right? You can't teach a slow person to be fast. That's something that they're either born with. You can only teach a fast person to cut down their time. That's it. Right? There's no teaching a person who can't move fast how to run fast. You can't teach that. It's something that you either got or you don't got, right? And it just happens to be present in black people, which is why you can see, whether it be in Americans, Jamaican or the islands, Trinidad, Tobago, whether it be all of these sprint athletes that have the records for the males and females, 100, and that's particularly 200 meter, are almost exclusively black. There's a reason for that. So maybe the makeup of my there'll be you see a white person that's pretty fast every now and then. It happens, but it's like it's the exception. Let's call it that, right? So if my facility had a makeup of coaches and athletes that were almost majority black, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But this world that we're living in these days, people point and look at certain things and they say, well, that's overrepresentation and that's underrepresentation. And if there is this under and overrepresentation, if the makeup is majority white here, majority black, then there's some sort of like wrongdoing being done. And that's not always the case. But this is the issue with the overemphasis of diversity and inclusion and representation. How about we just talk about straight marriage? Bungie, you're a fucking joke.